Famous singers who made millions but ended up with nothing. Hit subscribe to see more crazy celebrity money stories. Scott Stapp was the singer of a band called Creed. They had really popular songs like With Arms Wide Open. But by 2014, Scott was living in a cheap hotel room. He was so broke that he sometimes had to sleep in his truck. He couldn't even buy gas or food. The government took all his money from his bank accounts. He made a sad video asking people to help him. A few days later, he asked fans to give him almost $500,000 to make a new album. Can you believe it? A guy who sold millions of songs was asking regular people for money. Luckily, his band got back together in 2024 and he made money again. But imagine being that close to having nowhere to live after being so famous. John Oates was in a duo called Hall & Oates. They had 6 songs that went to #1 on the charts in the 1970s and 80s. John lived like a king with fancy cars and private jets. But in 1987, his money guy told him he only had $50 left. $50! That's less than most kids get for their birthday. His manager and lawyer told him to spend lots of money, but never warned him he would run out. They didn't steal from him, but they watched him spend millions without saying anything. Later, John tried to sell part of his music rights without telling his partner Daryl Hall. This made them so mad at each other that they stopped being friends forever. By 2024, they said they would never work together again. All those years of friendship ruined because of money fights. Tommy James and the Shondells sold more albums than the Beatles in 1968, but Tommy barely got any money from those sales. When he was only 19, he signed a contract with a record company owned by a man named Morris Levy. This man had connections to bad people, like the mafia. Levy stole between $30 and $40 million that should have gone to Tommy. When Tommy figured out what was happening, he had to choose between fighting for his money or staying safe. He was scared that Levy might hurt him if he tried to get his money back. So he stayed quiet and watched as Levy kept millions that belonged to him. Today, Tommy makes money by doing concerts and hosting a radio show, but those stolen millions could have made him rich for life. Dee Snider sang for a band called Twisted Sister. Their most famous song was We're Not Gonna Take It. Even though they sold millions of records, nobody in the band got paid until after they broke up in 1988. Dee had to file for bankruptcy twice in the 1990s. He worked at a regular office job and had to use coupons to buy food. He bought his clothes from thrift stores and didn't even own a car. Only when the band got back together in 1997 did he start making money. Their songs started being used in movies and TV shows, which finally paid him what he should have gotten years earlier. Even the famous singer Celine Dion sang one of his Christmas songs, which made him more money. But Dee never forgot those terrible years when being famous didn't help him pay his bills. George Clinton made a new type of music called funk with his band's Parliament Funkadelic. His music influenced many other singers who came after him. He should have become very rich, but instead, he went broke. George says someone else signed his name on bankruptcy papers without asking him. This was just one way people stole from him during his career. His former business partner Armin Baladian became his biggest enemy in a fight that lasted over 40 years. George said Baladian put fake writers' names on his songs so he could take some of the money. He also tricked George into signing blank contracts. George thinks Baladian stole tens of millions of dollars from him over the years. In 2025, George filed another lawsuit to try to get his money back. Even though he's old now, he's still fighting for money that was stolen from him long ago. These songs are his life's work, and he won't give up trying to get what belongs to him. The Goo Goo Dolls sold 2 million copies of their 1995 album, but their record company refused to pay them any money. The company wouldn't even tell them how much money the album made. They had to take their own record company to court just to get out of their contract. Even after they signed with a better company, the internet age hurt their income. The singer Johnny says he has a platinum record but drives a regular Ford truck. From his billion plays on Spotify, he jokes that he can only afford a tiny toy car of the same truck he drives. This shows how many successful musicians today get recognition, but not much money. Pete Doherty was in bands called the Libertines and Baby Shambles. He made millions from his music, but spent it all on drugs and wild living. By the time he was in his early 30s, he was almost broke, even though he had several #1 albums. His 2010 concert tour actually lost money, which made him realize how bad his money problems were. He admitted he never saved any money and spent everything as soon as he got it. 10 years later, he was still paying tax bills from his crazy spending days. Thankfully, he stopped using drugs and fixed his money problems. By 2023, he had over $1 million again. His story shows how fast success can disappear when someone has serious personal problems. The MC5 influenced many punk rock bands but never became popular when they were making music. Their famous 1969 album didn't sell well, and their record company dropped them in 1971. The band tried moving to England but couldn't find success there either. Drug use ate up their remaining money, and they had to file for bankruptcy. Unlike other bands in this story, MC5 never made a comeback. One guitarist named Wayne Kramer ended up in jail for drug crimes, then worked as a carpenter in the 1980s. While he was in jail, he read that MC5 had influenced many famous bands, but this just made him angry because he helped create a music style but never made money from it. The other band members had similar struggles, with some dying young and poor even though their music was very important to rock history. Mel B was one of the Spice Girls, one of the world's most famous girl groups. She also became a TV star and made money when the Spice Girls got back together in 2019, but her divorce from her ex-husband, who she says was mean to her, left her completely broke. Every penny from the reunion tour went to paying him, including a $350,000 payment and $5,000 every month for child support. She had to move back in with her mom and start over with no money. Her story shows how someone who hurts you can also destroy you financially, no matter how famous you are. Ace Frehley helped start Kiss, one of rock's most famous bands with crazy makeup and costumes. But after leaving the group twice, his solo career never did as well as Kiss. By 2013, he was losing his house because he couldn't pay his mortgage. He hadn't paid his house payment in 2 years and owed almost $20,000 in taxes. Looking back, he said leaving Kiss was a stupid decision because it cost him millions of dollars. His story shows how even people who help start legendary bands can have money problems when they leave the group that made them famous. The Verve had a huge hit called Bittersweet Symphony in 1997, but the band made almost no money from it. The song used a small piece of a Rolling Stones song, and the Stones' former manager Alan Klein demanded all the money from Bittersweet Symphony. The Verve couldn't afford to fight him in court, so they gave up all rights to their biggest hit. The singer Richard Ashcroft only got $1,000 for a song that made millions. Klein's company kept all that money until 2019, when Mick Jagger and Keith Richards finally gave the rights back to Ashcroft. Experts think Klein's actions cost Ashcroft around $5 million, money that was stolen from him for over 20 years. Norman Greenbaum had a #1 hit called Spirit in the Sky in 1969, but he never had another hit song. By 1980, he was working as a cook in a restaurant just to survive. Everything changed in 1987 when his song started being used in movies and TV commercials, which paid him money every time it played. From his small apartment, Norman says the song didn't make him super rich, but it gives him enough money to live comfortably without working. His story shows how one hit song can support someone their whole life if it's used properly. Ryan Adams was a successful singer-songwriter until 7 women, including his ex-wife Mandy Moore, said he treated them badly. By 2021, his career was so destroyed that he posted a message on Instagram begging for a record deal. He wrote, "I know I'm damaged goods," and worried about losing his home and having to live with his sister. The man who once had a great career was asking people to give him a chance. He even thought about selling his song rights just to pay his rent. His 2024 attempt to make a comeback shows how hard it is to rebuild a career after such bad publicity. Even Billy Joel, who plays monthly shows at Madison Square Garden and has countless hit songs, was cheated out of money. His former manager Frank Weber stole a shocking $90 million from him. Weber gave huge loans to his own companies using Billy's name, lost over $10 million on bad investments, and even used Billy's songs as loan collateral without asking. While stealing Billy's money, Weber changed financial papers to hide his crimes and took $20 million in fees for himself. When Billy sued him, Weber cleverly filed for bankruptcy to avoid paying most of it back. This shows how even very wealthy entertainers can be hurt by trusted people who betray them. Willie Nelson's problems with the government became famous when they said he owed $16.6 million in taxes in 1990. Even after they reduced it to $6 million, Willie couldn't pay, so the government took everything he owned. He spent years trying to pay back his tax debt and even made an album called The IRS Tapes to raise money for his tax bill. His habit of keeping lots of people around him and giving money away freely made his money problems worse, sometimes leaving him with very little, despite his success. You think being a famous singer means you'll always have money? Think again. Some of the biggest music stars went from being super rich to having no money at all. These stories will blow your mind. It's not just about spending too much money, it's about bad people who stole from them and a music business that doesn't care about singers. These stories show the scary truth about the music business. Being talented and successful doesn't mean you'll have money. Bad contracts, dishonest managers, drug problems, legal troubles, and not understanding money can destroy even the most successful careers. The internet age has made things worse, with singers earning tiny amounts per play while tech companies make billions. Many musicians today need regular jobs just to survive, even though millions of people love their music.